right, here's the deal. Let's say you're coming up on a deadline. Maybe you need to show your progress to a client. Maybe it's just your scheduled data upload to YouTube and you still need to color grade and you don't have time to go through like a 15-step process to get things looking perfect. That's okay. I've got you covered. I've got a 5-step color grade that I want to show you that's going to color correct your footage, give you a nice look and make it, it's gonna look good. And it all centers around one tool in the color page that's not quite hidden, but it is often overlooked. It's called Color Boost, and it's very similar to saturation, but there's a key difference that's going to make all the difference in the world. So with all that being said, let's jump into Davinci Resolve, take a look at what we've got. I've got a few clips here that I got from ArtGrid. It's where I get all of my stock footage from. If you want to check them out for yourself, they're linked in the description. And if you sign up using that link, you'll actually get 2 free months on top of an annual plan. I highly recommend them. They're absolutely amazing. So I've got some footage here. They're all log. I've got a person dancing in a hallway, a woman walking along a path in a snowy forest, and then I've got 2 boys laying on a basketball court. Now we're going to do 3 different looks using this same 5-step process. Let's come back to our woman dancing here and take a look at our node tree. So first we've got exposure and contrast, and that's where we're going to set our exposure, do our contrast, make sure everything looks good there. After that, we're going to move on to balance and saturation. That's where we're going to add some color into the image, and we're going to make sure that we're color corrected. And then after that, we're going to create our look, and that's where we're going to use that secret weapon that I was talking about, that color boost. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to move on to Luma versus saturation. We're going to use that tool to desaturate our blacks, make sure everything looks nice and natural. And then after that, we're going to add a vignette to make our subject pop. So let's come back to the beginning of our node tree. Make sure that exposure contrast node is selected. And we're going to add a little bit of contrast here. Just enough right before those blacks start to crush. That's where we're going to stop it. And then we're going to bring our little highlight slider down because we are clipping those highlights a little bit. So I want to soften that up. That looks good. And then I'm going to bring my gain up just a bit. That's looking good right about there. I'm going to play around with the pivot a little bit as well. I think that's good. Bring down our lift. Now, right there, that's perfect. Now let's move on to balance and saturation. First thing I'm gonna do is add some color back into this image. So let's saturate that. That looks good right about there. And now let's make sure everything is white balanced. So I'm gonna go off this window right here because that should be nice and balanced, and it is. We've got a nice balanced image up there. If we come down to our blacks, you can see that that's good. There's no color cast in the highlights or the shadows. So we're liking that right now. And let's go ahead and move on to our look. Now, before we actually create our look, I want to introduce you to the Color Boost tool because that is the tool that this entire look is going to be based around. So if we come down here into our color wheels and look at the bottom left, you'll find Color Boost. Now, this is in Davinci Resolve 17. If you are in 16 still, then what you'll need to do is go down to that bottom left-hand corner of the color wheels, hit that number 2 to go to the second page of the tools, and that's where you'll find Color Boost. And if I come over here to Color Boost and I just crank that up, you'll see that we're just really saturating our image. And it looks exactly like saturation. Here, if I reset that and we come over to saturation and we bring that up, it's once again saturating our image. So let's bring that back down. Here's the difference between Color Boost and saturation. If I come here and I bring some teal into our image, which is what I want to do for this look. Now let's say I wanted to saturate this. It's going to saturate that teal and it's going to saturate all of the original colors of the image, and everything is still going to have that teal cast. But let's reset that. And let's go ahead and bring up Color Boost. You'll see what it's doing is it's just bringing out the original colors of the image. It's not really touching the teal that we added in there. And that's the big difference between color boost and saturation. Saturation saturates everything after you've made your corrections, and then color boost saturates everything that was there before you made the corrections. So what I did here was I added that teal overcast on the entire image, and then I brought back out the original colors, which brought back out my reds and my oranges, and now I've got a nice teal and orange look. Now this is looking a little bit saturated, so what we're gonna do is drop the saturation of the entire image just a little bit. That looks good right about there. And then one other thing that I want to do is I really want to make these reds and oranges pop, so I'm going to come over here to hue versus saturation, and I'm going to choose my reds and my yellows, and I'm going to pop those just a little bit. And then I'm going to come over to hue versus Luma, choose my reds and my yellows. I'm going to drop the Luma on my reds just a little bit and bring up my yellows. And that's just going to make my skin and these railings and the sweatshirt pop a little bit. And that's a pretty good look right there. Let's move on to Luma versus saturation, because my blacks have a lot of teal in them and I don't really want that. So I'm going to come over to Luma versus saturation. Going to set my points for the highlights and the shadows, and I'm just going to drag these endpoints down. Make it nice and dramatic. You can see a quick before and after. You can see that it got rid of a lot of that color cast in the blacks and the shadows. Maybe add a little bit more there. That's looking good. Next thing we're going to do is add a vignette. Add a circular power window. And I just want to accentuate this path right here, maybe up to the doorway. That's looking good right there. Let's go ahead and soften that up. Make it so we're working with the outside of that power window. Come over to our curves, go to custom curves, grab the midpoint of that curve and just drag it down a little bit. Now if we deactivate, we've got our log version. We added some contrast, did balance and saturation. We added our look. We desaturated the blacks, and we added a vignette to make our subject pop. So there you go. You've got 5 steps. You've got a good looking image. Let's take a look at our next clip, because this one is a little bit more difficult to work with just because our exposure, you can see if actually we move over to waveform, you can see that we are basically running the gamut here. We're going all the way from basically 0 all the way up to that 1023 mark. So we don't have a lot of latitude for our contrast, but let's try it anyway. First, we're going to bring our overall exposure down. That's looking good right about there. Again, let's bring those highlights down so we're not clipping them. That's looking good. And now we're going to add just a little bit of an S curve. That's looking good right about there. Let's go to balance and saturation. We're going to go ahead and bring our saturation up. It's looking pretty good right there. Let's take a look at our parade to make sure we've got a good white balance. Let's come up here to this snow. That's our highest point, and you can see we've definitely got a blue cast up in our highlights. So what I'm going to do just real quick is I'm going to grab this little eyedropper. This is going to kind of auto white balance. So let's click on that. That really didn't do a whole lot. Let's go ahead and warm this up just a little bit to even that out. That's looking good right about there. Let's move on to our look. I'm going to cool this down quite a bit because this is a wintry scene. And you can see we put that cool cast all over the image here. And let's bring back our original colors a bit by doing color boost. Now that really made those greens pop, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here to hue versus saturation. We're gonna choose our greens. We're gonna drop the saturation of our greens. Hue versus Luma. Let's go ahead and hit our greens again. Drop the Luma of our greens. And that's looking a lot better. Let's come over to Luma versus saturation. Come over to Luma versus saturation. Set those blacks and those highlight points. Desaturate those blacks. Desaturate those highlights just a little bit. Now, one thing I definitely want to do is try and get a little bit of detail back in this snow. So I'm going to come back to my exposure and contrast, and this time I'm going to go into my HDR color wheels. Let's take a look at specular, see if, no, our snow doesn't show up there, but it does show up there. So we're going to take our highlights and we're going to bring our exposure down a little bit. And we're gonna bring our saturation down a little bit. Make that snow just a little bit more white. That's looking good right about there. Let's move on to our vignette. Go into our power windows. Add a circular power window. And we're just going to highlight this path here. Let's soften that up. Make sure we're working with the outside of the power window. Come over to our curves, go to our custom curve, drop that midpoint, and there you go. And let's take a look again. Let's deactivate all our nodes. First we did our exposure and our contrast, then we did balance and saturation, then we added our look, we desaturated those blacks, and we added a vignette. All right, let's take a look at our last clip here. This is the clip of the boys on the basketball court. And we're gonna do the same thing. Let's add a little bit of contrast. So let's come back over to my color wheels, add some contrast, just to the point where it's starting to crush the blacks. Let's bring our highlights up this time. That's looking good right about there. Let's move on to balance and saturation. Go ahead and saturate that. We're gonna bring our saturation all the way up. That's looking good. I'm gonna do a quick white balance on this kid's shoe here. So I'm gonna grab my little eyedropper, come over to the shoe. There we go. It didn't do a whole lot, but it did a little bit. Now let's move on to our look. And this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some warmth because I want this to look like a nice summer day. So I'm gonna push some orange into that scene, and you can see everything kind of turned orange. And once again, to demonstrate color boost here, if I just up the saturation, you'll see just the orange, everything is orange. It's really, really bad. But if I take my color boost and I move that up, you can see the original colors coming through. Now that's really oversaturated, so we're gonna drop the saturation on the image. That's looking good right about there. Now let's move on to Luma versus saturation. I'm gonna come over to Luma versus saturation, set our shadow point, our highlight point. Let's bring down those shadows. That's looking a lot better. And let's get these whites a little bit whiter. That's looking good right about there. And then last thing we're gonna do is just add a general vignette here. Let's add that circular power window. Soften that up. Make sure we're working with the outside of the window. Come back over to our curves, go to custom curves, drop that midpoint. Now if we deactivate all those nodes and go step by step, exposure and contrast, balance and saturation, created our look, desaturated the blacks, and added a vignette. Now, I've gone ahead and I've created LUTs based on all these looks, and I've created an empty node tree that I exported as a DPX so you can use it in your own projects. And all you have to do to get your hands on it is become a channel member. I give all of my presets and all of my LUTs away for free to my channel members. So if you want to take advantage of that, as well as discounts from some of my favorite brands, a private Facebook group, and monthly live editing trainings, make sure you click that join button below this video and become a channel member today. So using Color Boost with this 5-step process, you can really create a great looking video in just 5 steps. Now, this isn't what I normally do. This is kind of my I'm in a rush process. If you want to see my step-by-step workflow for color grading that I normally do, make sure you check out this video right here. And for more tools, tips, and tricks that will make you a better video editor, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.